Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. One of my viewers wanted to know if Raditz from Dragon Ball Z can go out and beat all of the characters in the Star Wars universe. Now, this viewer basically wants to try to compare two sets of fictional characters as related to a hypothetical situation, and a hypothetical situation that I find to be absolutely and completely illogical. Because the characters of Dragon Ball Z are basically animated characters that are hand-drawn animation, whereas the characters in Star Wars are fictional characters that are a part of a live-action film, and neither of these worlds could basically interact with each other in a logical fashion, even if you sat there and wanted to say, oh, you could take the Star Wars characters from the Star Wars comic books. That really cannot logically work because Dragon Ball comes from a world of manga and Star Wars comes from comics, so there's no way that Raditz could ever have any sort of interaction with the characters of Star Wars because they come from two completely different fictional worlds. And as they come from two completely different fictional worlds, there's no way that they could ever interact with each other, and no way that you could ever say that Raditz could ever go out here and beat the Star Wars universe, because the Star Wars universe, again, is a science fiction universe, whereas Dragon Ball is a manga and anime universe. So neither of these worlds could ever be able to work together organically the way you could have a pair of comic book characters that come from a place like a Marvel or DC, where you could basically say that both of them could interact with each other. But in the case of Star Wars, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And with Dragon Ball, it's in a world that basically is one based in anime. And so neither world could basically flow together organically, so Raditz could never beat any characters in the Star Wars universe. Yes, he is Goku's brother. Yes, he's a Super Saiyan, but a Super Saiyan could not really work organically in the world of Star Wars, because the world of Star Wars ultimate power is the Force, and with the ultimate power being the Force, there's no way you could have either of these characters interacting with each other. So the question proposed by the viewer makes absolutely no logical sense to me as related to these so-called hypothetical matchups between these characters that are out here interacting, and makes no logical sense to me at all as related to these interactions. But they propose this question regarding these fictional characters and proposes this hypothetical situation as related to these fictional characters, when in actuality, when it comes to fictional characters, it's basically whatever the writer wants it to be. Whatever the writer wants the story to be is whatever they bring the outcome to be. And when it comes to corporate properties like Dragon Ball and Star Wars, they're going to basically look to make their characters be the ones that are the ones that look strong, and look strong as related to everything, because they don't want their brands to be damaged. That's the other part that the viewer doesn't really understand about these characters. Again, these are fictional characters who are intellectual properties, and as they are intellectual properties, they are characters that, again, are owned by these corporations, whether it be the Toei Corporation in Japan, or they are Lucasfilm, which is owned by Disney. These fictional characters are basically created to be properties at overall, and again, the outcome of the story is based on whatever they pay the writers to make it to be regarding these fictional characters, and that's why I don't get into these debates over things like Superman and the Hulk, or Goku versus Superman, or Goku versus the Hulk, because they are fictional characters, and basically fictional characters can be whatever the writer wants it to be. I mean, I recently wrote the book John Haynes Godbreaker about 2 years ago, where I had John Haynes taking on the Asgardian god Thor, and before that I had John Haynes at Death's Door, where John Haynes basically took on Thanatos, the Greek god of death, and in both situations he wound up beating both of those gods, because as a writer I could write that story. Moreover, before that I had him taking on God Cassius in the story The Man Who Rules the World, and I had him taking on Isis, who was enthralled by Dracula, in Isis, Bride of Dracula. So John Haynes basically has a whole lot of victories over about 4 gods, and he's just an ordinary human being who's connected to the supernatural, and he's got those victories because I could go out here and, as a writer of fiction, make that up as fictional and make it fit my narratives, again, organically. So when it comes to these characters, you can make these stories work, but when it comes to corporations, they are not going to have their characters looking bad as related to things, not how to have their characters looking bad. And at the end of the day, again, these characters basically can't interact with each other. They can't interact with each other because, again, Star Wars is live action and Dragon Ball is hand-drawn manga or hand-drawn anime. So these characters basically can't work together at all. And what the viewer is proposing makes no logical sense. Makes no logical sense to me, but they requested the video as related to trying to find out whether Raditz from Dragon Ball Z could beat these characters in the Star Wars universe, and there's no way that either character could challenge each other. Again, they would both be seen as fictional characters in either world, and the only way they could interact is, again, if the writers allowed it, and in most cases the writers aren't going to allow it. So I'm hoping this answers the viewer's question as related to this question that I just find to be one that I really have no understanding of why they actually requested this video, but I answered this. I'm hoping that this answers their question regarding fictional characters, and I'm hoping this gives them an understanding, again, as related to the fiction that they're watching, that this is basically something, again, a kind of topic I really don't like to discuss because it's just, again, an asinine topic, but the viewer requested it, so I made this video, and you can just, again, this is what I hope will answer their question regarding what I believe to be a completely asinine topic. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.